I found out my husband secretly took his ex on our solo trip to Italy, and that was just the beginning. Hi Reddit, I honestly never thought I'd be that girl typing out a story like this, but here I am. I don't know what I want exactly: advice, validation, a place to scream into the void, maybe all of it. All I know is that my world flipped upside down 3 weeks ago and I haven't been able to breathe right since. My husband, I guess soon to be ex, and I have been together for 7 years, married for two. We were one of those couples people called solid. He was the steady one, always cool and thoughtful. I was the emotional one, big-hearted, maybe a little dramatic sometimes, but fiercely loyal. I thought we balanced each other out. He said we were soulmates. I'd always trusted him, like never even a second thought kind of trust. No passcode hiding, no weird vibes. We weren't perfect, but who is? We had our tiffs, usually about how he was always working late or how I felt like I was the only one planning date nights anymore. But I chalked it up to the stress of adulthood. In March, he told me he was planning a solo reset trip, just 5 days in Italy. He said he needed space to clear his head and think about where he was going in life, that maybe he'd come back with some inspiration to write again. He's an amateur screenwriter, no shade, just facts. He seemed so earnest about it, so I said okay, I trusted him. He left the first week of April. He FaceTimed me from Florence, sent me photos of pasta and cathedrals, told me he missed me. I missed him too. I spent that week binging true crime and eating Thai food in bed. Everything felt fine, until 3 weeks ago when I was helping him unpack some of his summer clothes from storage. I opened a zipped side pocket of his travel bag, honestly looking for a charger, and instead I found a printed Polaroid tucked into a little envelope. It was him in Venice, smiling on a gondola. And sitting beside him, his ex, the same girl he told me meant nothing when I found old texts 3 years ago, the same girl he blocked supposedly at my request. And the worst part, she was wearing the exact gold necklace I gave him on our anniversary. I recognized the chain, I bought it. I stared at that photo for what felt like forever. My heart was pounding, but my brain just kept looping. Why, when, how? I mean, he was supposed to be on a solo trip. No mention of her at all, not even a hint. The next few minutes were a blur. I slipped the photo back into the pocket, pretending nothing was wrong, but inside I was spiraling. Did they meet up randomly? Was it planned? How many other things had he lied about? I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but every warning bell in my body was screaming. I'd been suspicious lately. Little changes in his texting habits, sudden phone locks, vague excuses about work calls at weird hours, but I'd pushed those feelings aside, blaming stress or paranoia. I sat on the couch trying to hold it together, but then the screen lit up. A text from his phone number popped up on my laptop. We share a device for work stuff. Can't wait to see you tonight, miss you. I almost dropped the laptop. He's still here. I grabbed my phone and called him immediately. No answer, called again, straight to voicemail. My stomach dropped. I knew I had to confront him, but what if he lied again? What if I was wrong and I was breaking my own heart over nothing? But deep down, I knew I wasn't wrong. That night, he finally came home late, way past when he said he would. My hands were shaking as soon as I opened the door. I could smell the faint scent of perfume on his jacket, and that was it. I lost it. I grabbed the photo and the text on my phone and threw them on the kitchen table like evidence in a crime show. What the hell is this? I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady but failing miserably. He froze, didn't even try to deny it at first. Then after a long, heavy silence, he said, "It's not what you think." Not what I think, I almost laughed. You're literally with her. You lied to me, lied about your trip, and texted her from our phone. His eyes flickered with guilt, but then he got defensive. Look, we met up once. It didn't mean anything. I was confused. I didn't want to hurt you. I felt like I was going to vomit. Confused after 7 years, after 2 years of marriage. I asked him why he needed to meet her in secret if it meant nothing. He avoided my gaze and started mumbling about unfinished feelings and needing closure. Closure felt like a punch in the guts. After he left the kitchen that night, I just sat there in silence, heart pounding like crazy. I felt numb, then furious, then completely broken, all in the span of a few minutes. I couldn't believe the man I trusted with everything had been hiding this from me. The next days were absolute chaos in my head. I kept replaying every conversation, every time he'd seemed distant or distracted. Was I really that blind, or was he just that good at hiding things? I cried at work, missed deadlines, and snapped at friends who tried to check in. My mind refused to let go of the betrayal. How do you even process this? I felt stupid for trusting him, angry for being lied to, and sad because I honestly thought we were building something real. I even caught myself scrolling through his phone when he wasn't around, something I never thought I'd do. The messages with her were there, flirty, secretive, and worse, full of plans to meet again. After days of barely eating and sleeping, I knew I had to talk to him again. Not just for the sake of my heart, but because I needed the truth. No more half explanations or excuses. I had to know everything if I was going to decide what to do next. I sent him a message asking to meet up at our favorite coffee shop, the place where we'd had so many good memories. He agreed, probably sensing this was serious. When we met, the tension was suffocating. I barely recognized the man sitting across from me. He looked tired and regretful, but his eyes held that same flicker of distance I'd noticed for months. I started asking questions. How long? Why did you love her? Were you planning to leave me? His answers were messy, hesitant, and sometimes contradictory. He admitted it wasn't just a one-time thing, that there was an emotional connection he hadn't been honest about, that he was lost and scared. Hearing that felt like salt in a fresh wound. Lost and scared, but still, he was out there with someone else while I was at home trusting him blindly. After that coffee shop conversation, I went straight home and just broke down. I cried harder than I have in years. I felt like my whole world had shattered and I didn't know how to put the pieces back together. The betrayal wasn't just about the secret meetings or the lies, it was about losing the person I thought I knew. The man who promised forever suddenly felt like a stranger who'd been living a double life. I started questioning everything. Was I enough? Did I miss the signs? Should I have done something differently? But deep down, I knew none of this was my fault. I also realized I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay just to save the marriage. I needed time, I needed space. But at the same time, part of me wanted to fight, to understand if there was still a we somewhere buried under all this mess. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to ghost him or let this go quietly. I was going to face it head on, but on my terms. The next morning, I told him I needed some distance, no contact for a week. I needed to clear my head without hearing his excuses or apologies that felt rehearsed. He wasn't happy, but he agreed. That week was brutal. Every little thing reminded me of him. I had to delete our shared playlists, put away photos, even mute him on social media so I wouldn't see his updates with her. At the same time, I leaned hard into my support system. I called my best friends late at night, cried to my therapist, and started journaling all the feelings I'd been bottling up. It wasn't easy. I felt lonely, angry, sad, and confused all at once. But slowly, I started to remember who I was before all this: independent, strong, and deserving of honesty. I realized that if I wanted to heal, I had to decide what I truly wanted. Could I forgive him? Could I trust him again? Or was this the end? After that week, he reached out, all apologies and promises. He said he'd cut contact with his ex for good, that he wanted to rebuild what we had, and that he was willing to go to counseling. Honestly, part of me wanted to believe him so badly. I missed the man I thought he was, the one who made me laugh on bad days and held my hand through my worst. But I wasn't ready, not yet. I told him I needed more time and space, that rebuilding trust was going to be a long road if it was even possible. He was frustrated and hurt, but he understood. I think deep down he knew how much damage had been done. That conversation was one of the hardest I've ever had. I wanted to scream, cry, beg, but instead I just told the truth. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. Just when I thought I was starting to get a grip on things, I stumbled upon something else, more proof that he'd been lying. This time it was texts from months before the Italy trip, hidden under some weird nickname on his phone. He'd been secretly talking to her behind my back for over a year, planning meetups, sending flirty messages, even talking about how unhappy he was with me. That broke me again, but also gave me clarity. This wasn't a one-time mistake or a moment of weakness. This was a pattern. I confronted him again, and this time there were no more excuses. He just looked down and admitted it. I realized I couldn't keep living in this cycle of lies and pain. After that confrontation, I knew deep down that staying wasn't an option, not if this was the reality I was waking up to every day. I told him I needed a divorce. It was the hardest thing I've ever said out loud, but also the most freeing. He begged me to reconsider, promised to change, to prove himself, but I was done convincing myself that things could magically get better. I started making plans, talked to a lawyer, found a new apartment, and leaned on my friends more than ever. It hurt like hell, but for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. Hope that I could rebuild my life without the constant fear of betrayal. The weeks following the decision were brutal. Packing up memories, changing routines, and explaining everything to family and friends felt like reliving the pain on repeat. But amidst the chaos, I started finding pieces of myself I'd lost: my independence, my confidence, my voice. I started therapy, not just to process the breakup, but to understand why I stayed as long as I did and how to trust myself moving forward. Some days I still feel overwhelmed, like the betrayal is a heavy cloud over my head. Other days I surprise myself with bursts of strength and clarity. I'm learning that healing isn't linear, and that's okay. One thing I didn't expect was how much people would pick sides. Some of my friends were supportive and stood by me through every tear and rant, others, not so much. A few of his friends actually tried to convince me to give him another chance or said I was overreacting. My own sister even told me maybe you pushed him away. It was exhausting and hurtful. I realized that sometimes even the people closest to you can misunderstand or judge your pain. But I learned to set boundaries and surround myself with people who genuinely cared about me, not just the story they wanted to believe. One day, feeling completely lost, I went out for a walk and ended up at a small cafe. I sat there nursing a coffee, still caught up in my whirlwind of emotions. A woman at the next table noticed my tear-streaked face and offered a smile, then struck up a conversation. She shared her own story of betrayal and healing, a reminder that I wasn't alone in this. That brief connection gave me a spark of hope I didn't realize I needed. Sometimes, healing comes from the most unexpected places. As the weeks turned into months, I started building a life that was just mine. I picked up new hobbies, reconnected with old friends, and even traveled solo for the first time in years. It wasn't always easy. There were moments I wanted to text him to get answers or just hear his voice one last time, but I resisted. I realized my worth wasn't tied to anyone else's actions or mistakes. I was learning to be whole on my own. Looking back, I never expected to face this kind of heartbreak, but it taught me so much about trust, self-respect, and boundaries. If you're going through something similar, please remember, you deserve honesty. You deserve to be treated with respect. Don't let anyone make you doubt your feelings or stay in a situation that hurts you. Healing is messy and it takes time, but it's possible and you will come out stronger. Thanks for listening, Reddit. I'm still figuring it out, but I'm hopeful for what comes next.